Some moments in life, they stick with you forever. Take a second to think about the greatest moments of your life. For me, my mind, it jumps to the indescribable feeling I had, just holding each of my kids for the very first time. Those moments, they were so profound that all I can do is describe them as like I was in another world. Or maybe I think of the uncontainable excitement that I experienced when my wife Sherry said yes to going out with me on our very first date. Even the simple things, like I reflect on the pure euphoria of biting into the best Tex-Mex enchiladas I've ever had back at my favorite restaurant in Texas. Those moments, they're unforgettable. But you want to know something that absolutely blows my mind? As incredible as those experiences were, they are just tiny, imperfective glimpses of something far greater. The joy of what it's going to be like to one day be with God, living and walking in his presence, which will no longer be restrained in any way. Jesus actually tells us about this in Matthew 13. He says the kingdom of heaven, it's like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found, just kind of stumbled on, and he covered it up. And then in his joy, he goes and he sells all that he has, and he buys that field. And then the very next verse gives us another picture. It says the kingdom of heaven, it's like a merchant in search of fine pearls who, on finding one pearl of great value, like that pearl he's always been looking for, he goes and he sold all that he had and he bought it. Think about that. These parables, they describe something so valuable, so life-changing that it's worth giving up everything to have it. And you want to know what that treasure is? Jesus says it's God himself. We see this in the Bible. From the very first sentences of the Bible to its very last chapter, we see that being in communion with God is where life is at. This isn't just an important truth. It's the truth. God is the source of life itself. Everything in Scripture hinges on this reality. You and I were created to be fully immersed in his uninhibited, life-giving glory. And here's the beautiful part. All those incredible moments that we were just talking about that we treasure so much, they are gifts from him. And each one is like a giant billboard just pointing us back to the giver. James 1:17 says, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. That means that the greatest joys that we experience here, whether it's holding your child, whether it's laughing with friends, or yes, even enjoying an amazing meal, they all come from him. But these gifts, as good as they are just previews of the real thing. I love Psalm 16:11. It says, in your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. Fullness of joy. Can you imagine that? Every bit of joy that we experience here, it's just a faint echo of what it will be like to experience him fully. And if you're like me, you've probably instead spent a lot of time chasing things you thought would fulfill you, whether it's success or image or relationships or experiences. And you chase those things only to find out that they don't quite live up to the hype, right? They didn't leave you satisfied like you thought they would. It's like snacking on Ritz crackers when really what you're hungry for is a 3-course meal. And here's the reality that we often miss. It's that these cravings that we're talking about, like these hunger pains that we constantly experience, they aren't random. They are meant to draw us towards something deeper, something only God can provide. But so often, if you're like me, we treat God as if he's a means to an end, like some magic genie. We hope he'll give us the things that we think will fill us. And here's what we need to understand. It's this. God isn't a means to an end. He is the end. He is the treasure. He is the pearl. He is life itself. And the very best part is that you don't have to wait until eternity to begin experiencing him. Through Jesus, you can begin to experience the life-giving nearness of God right now. James 4:8 says, draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. That's an invitation That when we lay down the distractions, when we stop chasing the counterfeits, and that we rest in him, we begin to taste the joy of his presence, even in this broken world. It's not the fullness that we'll one day experience, but it's real. And it's enough to sustain us and give us life, even in the hardest of times. So the next time that you experience something amazing, maybe it's a moment that fills your heart with joy, let it point you back to the one who gave it to you. Every good thing is just a glimpse of him. And the more you seek him, the more you're going to find the life that you were made for.